In 1969, a symbol emerged, sending not just the law enforcement, but even the FBI into chaos and fear. Simple in appearance, yet impossible to be ignored. It was a circle with a cross through it. To most, it seemed like a mere drawing, but to the FBI, it was a deadly message, one that would push the limits of their resources and technology. This symbol became directly associated with the FBI's worst nightmare. The Zodiac Killer, as he called himself, was playing a deadly game. A game of cat and mouse, where every clue he left behind sent the FBI deeper into a maze of confusion. The symbol, though seemingly harmless, was his calling card, a mark that haunted the authorities and left a trail of questions that would remain unanswered even to this day. This was no ordinary criminal. This man kept the FBI on edge, relentlessly searching for answers, who had the whole nation watching and playing a deadly game of mystery. And like many other cases that have troubled investigators over the years, such as Maura Moore's disappearance, this one stands apart. But before we dive deep into the story, let's travel back to 1968 to see how it all began. December 20, 1968, two teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen, who was 16, and David Faraday, who was 17, were out for a night drive in the cold countryside near Vallejo, California. It was a routine evening with no sign of the tragic horror that would come for them. These two parked by a quiet road. The only sound was the humming of the crickets in the air. But the truth is that someone was actually watching. A man approached their car and without warning pulled out a firearm. In a matter of seconds, the teens were shot. Betty Lou lost his life instantly, and David was mortally wounded. The criminal walked away into the darkness, leaving the scene in silence. As it seemed, the suspect had no motive, just the cold reality of death. The police found no fingerprints, no clues, no obvious connection between the victims and their suspect. It was a random act of violence, or so it seemed, and for weeks the case would remain unsolved. But the suspect wasn't finished. He would soon strike again, and this time his actions would be even more disturbing. Although the symbol was simple, it became one of the most infamous icons in criminal history. For the Zodiac guy, it wasn't just a signature, it was a message of dominance and fear. Some think the symbol came from military or navy signs hinting at a possible connection. Others believe its plain design was chosen on purpose to show control over the chaos he created. Every time the Zodiac used it, whether on letters or at crime scenes, it was a reminder of his presence, as if he's saying, "I'm here and you can't stop me." At Lake Berryessa, the symbol appeared on a car door, along with details of his crimes, a bold move to keep his name in the news. In his strange letters, the symbol became a mark of fear. To solve his ciphers, investigators had to deal with it, almost as if they were forced to play along with his game. Over time, the symbol became more and more than just a mark. It was his brand, standing for both his crimes and the mystery around him. Even after decades, we still don't know if it had personal meaning or if his interests were for scaring the public. Today, the Zodiac's mark shows up in documentaries, books, and movies, a haunting reminder of what he did. For some, it's a key to figuring out who he was. For others, it's a chilling sign of how dark people can be. As we look into stories of unsolved mysteries, the Zodiac symbol stands as a challenge. It goes to show how after all this time that has passed, old and forgotten cases can still grab our attention. On July 31, 1969, the Zodiac guy sent a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle claiming responsibility for his criminal acts of Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, as well as Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Ann Shepard, who he had attacked months earlier. But this wasn't just a letter. The Zodiac didn't just admit to the crimes, he haunted the police and the public. He included a cipher, a complex combination of letters and numbers that he demanded to be printed in the newsletter for the public to try and solve, saying, "I'm the criminal of the two teenagers last Christmas," and with that, the Zodiac confirmed his reign of terror had just begun. The public was thrown into a frenzy. Who was this person and why was he sending these cryptic messages? The Zodiac's letter would set the stage for a series of strange and taunting communications, leaving the police and the public struggling to understand the mind of a killer who seemed to enjoy playing a disgusting game. And his messages weren't just confusing, they were literal threats, promises of more bloodshed to come. It was September 27, 1969 when the Zodiac struck again, this time with a bold and daring attack. Brian Huntnell and Cecilia were spending the day by Lake Berryessa, a popular spot near Napa, California. What began as a peaceful day would soon descend into their last. A man once again approached them, wearing a strange outfit, a hood with eye holes and a symbol on the front. At first, the couple thought he might be a prankster, but the moment he pulled out a firearm and forced them at gunpoint, they realized they were in grave danger. The Zodiac tied them up, then proceeded to pierce them, both Brian and Cecilia, repeatedly. But this time, the criminal didn't just remove their lives and run. As he attacked them, he drew the symbol on Brian's car door. Brian survived the attack and was able to escape, providing the police with the detailed description of the killer. But once again, the Zodiac had vanished, leaving behind only more questions, more fear, and yet another puzzle that would haunt investigators. By the end of 1969, the Zodiac's terrifying actions weren't limited to his crimes alone. His words became as chilling as his attacks. The first letter was sent to the press in July, but it wasn't the last. Over the next few years, the Zodiac would send multiple letters, each one more taunting and cryptic than the last. Some were filled with cryptograms, others with direct threats to the public, and all of them with a disturbing sense of confidence. Each letter came with a sense of mystery. In some, the Zodiac claimed to have taken more lives, more people than he had publicly confessed it to. In others, he gave riddles and puzzles, demanding the public to solve them. It was clear that the Zodiac was not just interested in the violence he had caused, he was playing a game and everyone else was part of it. One of his most notorious letters included a cipher, an enigma that, if solved, would reveal his name. For years, experts and amateur detectives alike worked together to decode the message, and while some parts were cracked, others remained unsolved. The Zodiac centered all the attention to him, and it seemed like he enjoyed it, sending new letters regularly, always staying one step ahead of the authorities. After his last known attack in 1969, the Zodiac seemed to vanish into thin air. The police, unable to pin down any solid leads, were left with only the cryptic messages and unsettling silence of the killer. The Zodiac's crimes and letters had left a community gripped by fear, but in the years that followed, there were fewer reports of his actions. Was he still out there or had he stopped? Some believed that the Zodiac had gone into hiding, while others speculated that he might have been killed or arrested for another crime. Yet the legend of the Zodiac grew only stranger with time, and new theories about his identity began to emerge. As the 1970s unfolded, new suspects appeared in the case, one offering their own theory on who the Zodiac could have been. Some pointing to local figures with questionable pasts, while others dug deeper into the Zodiac's letters, looking for hidden clues that could reveal his true identity. But as the years passed, the case remained sealed, and the suspect way harder to find.